Welcome to Game Over Montreal and Vancouver. I'm Andrew Berkshire. I'm here with Kaja May. She's got bragging rights tonight. The Vancouver Canucks remain the gods of PDO. Now, I believe 15 or so games into the season for the Canucks. I don't know how many games you guys have played, but during the game, I
That
saw
sounds
a
right.
bunch of analytics people posting that the Canucks have the highest PDO of any team this far into the season ever since the stat was started to be recorded in around 2007 2008. So congratulations, Vancouver
Thank
Canucks.
you.
Very impressive. Do you
Uh
mind, Kaya, if we talk about PDO a little bit? Because I feel like people don't quite get what that metric means.
yeah, to be honest, I keep seeing it everywhere. I don't fully understand it completely, but based on the way it's been told, I've been hearing it's a good thing. People thought, it was dying off last night. Regression is not a thing when it comes to the Vancouver Canucks, just like rebuilding isn't. So, yeah, probably talking about it a bit might be best because
Yeah, I,
it's
I
because
think I think a lot of people don't quite get what it means because I think when you talk about because PDO is simply just a team's total shooting percentage and save percentage smushed together and over long periods of time that usually equals out to around 100%, and most teams fall within the bounds of like 101.5 to 98.5. Like if you're beyond that, usually there's a pull one way or the other. Talent can have a lot to do with it, but these kinds of runs aren't necessarily sustainable. And I think a lot of people say like, oh, okay, so like one team is getting crazy shooting luck or crazy saving luck, and that's true. But I think if you watch the Canucks closely, what I see is a team that is executing at an extremely high level on a lot of plays that have very low execution rates. And guys like Quinn Hughes and Elias Pettersson, you expect that to continue. I don't think that you're going to expect them to fall off significantly. But when it's like the Connor Garlands and the Dakota Joshuas, and you just have like bounce after bounce going right to sticks. It's all that little minutia that adds up over time and creates goal after goal after goal. It's not just about the shooting luck or the saving luck. It's all those little plays layering together into a dominant performance. And like, is there luck there? Yes, but it's actually just execution and high level of like getting it done. It is talent. It's just that in the NHL, it's impossible for teams, even the most talented ones, to continue to execute plays at that level, right? So
yeah.
I think that we get lost sometimes in the like, oh, this team doesn't deserve it. They're just super lucky. Vancouver, the way they're playing right now, are deserving what they're getting.
I I understand you said like saving luck and stuff like that, and I kind of think like it's not luck. Demko is a very good goalie. We have an actually slightly competent backup in Casey DeSmith right now. Thank you, Montreal, for that one. Um as well, you mentioned like the Connor Garland, Dakota Joshua's are getting goals. Um, I just wanted to point out like a few other players have been putting up a lot of points that haven't been really talking about. Kuzmenko's on like 10 assists this year, and last year he was, you know, talked about throughout the league for like, oh, he's scoring, but he's not called or nominated because he can't be. But then, like this year, he's done more on the playmaking side. I don't know if that's because Mikheyev scored his sixth tonight. I don't know if that's because Mikheyev's back now and he's available to, contribute to more of those plays. But yeah, Joshua and Garland had not scored since the first game of the season when
Yeah.
we beat Edmonton 8-1. Um, and Garland, he's been trade rumors for basically since he got traded here. Joshua, he was scratched for a game. And there's another player I think that kind of is going underrated because he didn't score in the beginning of the season, but then he scored like a bunch the last few games. He scored last night in Toronto is Pius Suter.
Right.
He's had a lot of good plays, even on the Joshua goal that Garland and also Philip Hronek got. He has his 13th point in 10 games, so he has a 10-game point streak going on right now. So he's like almost at the top of the Canucks record list for defensemen with point streaks. Um, that was another thing. He's like the highest is 11, but um Yeah, I just think like that Suter was blocking Allen. He's also got a few good plays, and he's definitely been an underrated part of the Canucks season. Well, I do think it is a bit lucky that, we can admittedly, yes, we scored multiple like goals on not terrific goalies. Like Jake Allen tonight was
It was a little
really good.
sloppy.
It was a little sloppy, but I'd say he's one of the better goalies we've faced, especially in recent memory, considering Edmonton. Um, considering
The
San
3 games against
Jose.
Edmonton, that's really boosting the numbers, right?
Yeah, no, we have a plus 33 goal differential right now. That is insanity. That's like the negative of what LA had a few years back and still made the playoffs. But when it comes to the Vancouver Canucks, yes, it's luck, but it's also just years and years of not meeting the expectation. And now that they're finally meeting the expectation, everyone is just like, well, what the hell is this? What's going on?
Yeah, and sometimes that happens, right? Like I brought up during the game on Twitter, there was a stretch 2 years ago where the Arizona Coyotes were one of the worst teams in the league, and I remember uh, everyone was talking about the Canadiens and the Coyotes were about to meet up for a game, and it was the battle for who was going to get last to pick first overall, right? And the Coyotes happened to be on a streak at that time where, as a team, they were shooting like 30% over a stretch of like 8 or 9 games, and they came in, played horrendous, and scored like 7 goals. And it's like sometimes that's just what happens. Guys click in specific ways at the right time, and you can't really take it away from them, right? And I think with what Vancouver's doing so far, at some point, things are going to fall off a little bit, but they've banked so many points now. You mentioned their goal differential. Their goal differential is so high, they might have already done enough that just to play 500 the rest of the way, they're like inching into a playoff spot.
Yeah, so they're second in their division right now behind Vegas, but Vegas only has 2 points ahead of us right now. There's no games in hand on either side, and then LA has one game in a game on hand. They're in third, but they have 4 points less than us. So we're at like a 0.767 right now. Yeah, if we just
That's
coast
good,
along, it's kind of crazy to think about considering how last year started.
right?
But like you said, how it's gonna drop off at one point. I mean, I don't want to pin too much about this on him, but like Andre Kuzmenko, he had this insane shooting percentage in top 10 in franchise history for the season. It was like 25 over that percent last year. He was getting all the shots, getting all the goals, and then the series not getting as many, but he's still a decent player. So again, if the Canucks aren't getting the higher PDO, then I think they'll still be able to kind of coast their way into at least a wild card spot, which was what my prediction was for the season.
Yeah. And I mean, the fact is, this is the first time in a while where it seems like there's not a contract dispute or an injury to start the season for Elias Pettersson or Quinn Hughes, right? It seems like they're both actually in it here, playing their best, and that's
Mm-hmm.
just such a difference maker. And then Demko, who last year had so many injuries that he had to deal with, and like confidence issues trying to play through that stuff, and the team playing terrible around him, he's been absolutely lights out this year. That three-headed monster can be enough.
I think with Pettersson too, because you mentioned he's playing at his best. Yes, he's playing at like an insane points pace. It's his birthday today. It's
Happy birthday,
happy birthday,
Elias
Elias.
Pettersson.
Yes, he's definitely watching from the Bell Center or Center Bell. Uh, um,
Both work, both work.
both work. I'm like, I don't know. He's playing at like an elite level that we saw hit from him last year, but he still doesn't think that he's like completely 100%. He like went to talk it and apologized a few games back. I'm not sure if it was last game or the game before, but he's saying, yeah, or it was the Ottawa game maybe. Where he's like, yeah, no, I'm still like I still don't know what's wrong with me, blah blah blah. He's saying all this kind of stuff. Like I think like he is playing at this good level, but he's still not 100%. You said he's not dealing with any injuries. There is probably a little
Something
injury. Something is going on. I mean, with hockey players, there's always something going on. We saw it with
true.
Austin Matthews last season, and now look at him. He scored like how many hat tricks? Um, but we don't want to give any Toronto fans the satisfaction of talking about them. So when it comes to Elias Pettersson, while he may not be playing at 100%, I do think that he is still very good for this team. If he is injured, maybe, they keep going on this stretch. If they start to lose a few, maybe they shut him down for a game or two. Um, I don't know. I'm worried about the long-term effects of this, especially considering it is his contract year. So I don't know if he's pushing himself to like get more bank, which like 100% you should do, but at the same time, I'm worried.
Yeah, I get that. There's always a little bit of paranoia when you have a star player that might be nursing an injury when a team is actually pushing for something. Yeah, I mean, on the Montreal side of things, just following along on social media tonight, it seemed like everybody was really upset about this game. And I gotta say, like, I'm welcome to all the Vancouver fans in the chat. By the way, I don't get to chat with you guys, so welcome. It's fun to see it, to have these crossovers where we get to meet the different fan bases. But Canadiens fans were like really upset with how this game went, and I'm kind of shocked because they didn't play as well as they did against Boston last night. I think that was always going to be the case. They'd clearly circled that game on the calendar. It really mattered to them. It felt like a playoff game.
Well, yeah, you guys had a
But
whole parade outside.
right? Yeah, it was crazy. They went nuts. Leafs fans weren't very happy about that for whatever reason. Enjoying a win is a bad thing now. Oh my goodness. But we'll keep the Leafs out of it for now. Uh, but this game, I thought they played pretty decently well. The Canucks were better, I think, but the Canadiens had a lot of good chances. They couldn't finish. That's frustrating. I get it. It sucks to get those chances and not finish. But Yuri Slavkovsky, we're going to talk about him in the second segment. There's lots of good from him tonight. It might have been the best game of his career so far. So lots to talk about there. But overall, I thought the Canadiens played well enough to win a game if things went their way. Bounces didn't go their way. Bounces went the Canucks' way. Overall, officiating was pretty even. Like, you can't win them all, guys. And I think it's okay to take a loss here and there. It's okay. I don't think anybody should be upset about this one. There's nothing in this game watching the Canadiens where I left it being like really upset. Maybe the Mikheyev goal against Allen. That one was pretty rough. But other than that, I think he made up for it in the third period and kept them in the game with a chance to win. But hey, when you're not competing for a playoff spot anyway, these kinds of games happen and it's all right.
I was gonna say, like, the Canadiens were in 32nd, finishing the season last year, like less than 2 years ago. And I feel like, yes, while the Habs have they want to see their team do well. Every fan wants to see their team do well. I feel like with the Canucks, especially with having this edge to their game this season, just because of how the last decade has gone, since even over a decade, since 2011. Let's pin it on the Bruins. Like,
We're just
it's
gonna trash the Bruins and Leafs,
trash
and
the
all
for
Canadiens
sure.
fans and Canucks fans are gonna be like this by the end of the stream
I
because we hate the
know.
same teams.
Coast to coast, just a lot of grudges just holding on. Um I really thought that Montreal was actually going to tie it. Like, I was 100% expecting that. I was sitting there, I was like waiting. I was like, okay, what's going to happen? When the Kovacevic goal, when it got scored, I was actually listening on the radio because I was in my car. I had to jump out for a minute, but I heard it. I was like, oh, okay, so yeah, it's just going to be one goal us, one goal them, and that's how it's going to go off and on, off and on, off and on. Because I saw how they played last night against Montreal, and or no, you're Montreal. They played against Boston last night. You're Montreal. Brain. Yeah, I was like, okay, one in, one out, one in, one out. Then it gets called back. And then I saw the play after when Caulfield was offside, and I was like, okay, the Canadiens are going to have to light it up at some point in the game. And then we were up 3-0. So
Yeah, once the third goal happened, I think it became like a bit too much to expect the comeback. But I was trying, I couldn't get the tweet out fast enough. But as soon as the Canadiens pulled the goalie, I was like, this feels like the kind of game where they allow the empty netter right away and then score one to make it look closer right after. And it just like kind of annoys you a little bit. It's exactly what happened. I can't go back and say that I posted it because it literally happened too fast for me to finish typing out the tweet. So good on Arbor Jack guy for not giving up, I guess. That was a crazy shot. But
that was a good one. He's another good prospect you guys really have. Like, obviously see everything Habs on social media. Sometimes I have to hit translate, but that's okay. But when it comes to, yeah, Slavkovsky, there's a lot of stuff that gets thrown around online, just especially because of how his first season went, especially because, first overall, there's always drama with that. But when it comes to, yeah, him, Xhekaj, they're really good. I don't know, maybe they should like focus on, like, I think their prospects are okay. Maybe they should focus on their skate blades. I don't know what was going on in the third. Same thing.
Twice in a couple of minutes. What
Yeah.
was that?
Yeah, it's like, oh, what goalie was it that kept having was it Darcy Kemper that had like equipment issues in like three back-to-back games? Like
Oh
in
man,
Colorado. This was a
I
few years
remember
ago.
that.
Um, yeah, another thing I noticed like early on in the game, I don't know if the Canucks are still struggling with jet lag, like you've been in the East Coast the entire week, but okay. Um, I just felt like no one was able to hold on to the puck like on either side in the first period, and the second
Yeah,
period they kind of got things together, but there was a lot of close calls. 15 minutes and Vancouver had 19 shot attempts, but only like 5 of them actually counted. So again, just I'd think a bit more discipline, not penalty wise, because again, there were like no penalties this game, but just more discipline like shot wise. Because yes, they have a very high shooting percentage, save percentage, all that kind of stuff, but at the same time, you have these periods of struggle where you're like,
yeah.
okay, are you actually the thing you say you are or not?
Yeah, I get that. I think that whole Nick Suzuki one, the first skate blade that fell off, I saw like Vancouver media complaining that they should have called it too many men on the ice when they tried to like pull the line change when he was on there. Like, it's a two-man advantage that just got completely destroyed by random luck, and you're gonna complain about not calling it too
It's
many men
Vancouver.
call.
We're always gonna complain.
It's pretty funny. But then Gallagher right after losing, like that, you couldn't have scripted that. Nobody would have believed that it would happen. And the crazy thing is, this has happened before. I remember watching a game a couple of years ago where like three different players lost the skate blade. I'm pretty sure David Savard was one of them. Gallagher might have been another one again, which is hilarious. But yeah, it just happens. The one big positive outside of the individual performance that we're going to talk about in the next segment here for the Canadiens, the last couple of games, I've been waiting literal years for the Canadiens breakouts to look as good as they have for the last two games. They weren't spotless tonight, obviously, but I kept on noting over and over again how often on breakouts they had players in multiple positions in support. One player runs into a check, and then you've got 2 to 3 options where you can put the puck somewhere else, and it's just a clean exit. And the Canadiens, like, I would say, not even since Jacques Martin was a coach, which I don't even know if you were born yet, Kaja. That was a long time ago. They broken out so cleanly, and
I
that's
might
like
need a year for that.
that would have been like 2010, 11, because the first year Martin was
Okay.
a coach, they played like a very shell defensive system.
Mm-hmm.
And then once Max Pacioretty and PK Subban made the NHL, yes,
Oh yeah.
that's how long ago this was. They were like, oh, we have two really elite players, we can push the offense now, and they became a much, much better team. And then, of course, Zdeno Chara broke Max Pacioretty's neck, and that ended that year for the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, no. I remember watching those early Habs. Well, not early Habs days. You guys have existed for like a century, but when it comes to like those days of Pacioretty and Subban, I remember I was a big Subban fan when I was a kid, but yeah, I think it was just the energy.
Yeah, I mean, he has crazy energy.
Yeah.
I think a lot of Canadians fans point at Cole Caulfield like that now, and I don't know if he's as boisterous, although he is definitely behind the scenes, but on the ice, a little bit more down to business maybe than PK. PK at times would be caught a little wandering, but I think as much as people criticize PK for playing risky, Mike Matheson is like way way worse than that for the risky plays. But I feel like that's kind of what Vancouver does great right now. Is there's so many plays that they make where I'm like, wow, that's a really boneheaded play trying to pass through like 4 sticks, but it works.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
like do it while it works.
I feel like one thing I noted was on the penalty kill, with the two-man advantage. a lot of the time when the Canucks try and kill penalties, especially last season, it did not work out well. This season, like this game, Miller wins the faceoff and actually sends the puck around and actually gets it out and actually does well defensively, which is not something I thought I'd be saying this year, considering of how last year went. I think overall, yeah, you said like actually like zone breaks and everything too. Um, I really think that the Canucks, they were still struggling in the beginning. They got their game in the second. Obviously, they lucked out with Allen not having his stick on the Mikheyev goal, but I do think that there were a lot of good chances on the first power play for Matheson, because Canucks fans have history with him. Um,
Do they?
yeah.
I didn't know this.
Did you not know this? No, he injured Pettersson in his rookie year when he was with Florida.
Oh, right. I remember that.
Yeah.
Because I remember
So
people going crazy about him, and I worked with his brother at the time. And I just felt bad because I was like reading on social media all these people going crazy over Mike Matheson and like looking at his younger brother, or I think it's actually his older brother, and just feeling bad reading it all. But yeah, I do remember that now. Interesting that he was the one
yeah.
who scored tonight.
Well, I mean, that was also like the whole thing. He tripped and then Pettersson scored the 7-6 winning goal last year in overtime. So, like, that was a whole narrative last year. But still, there were a lot of good chances on that power play. I think the Canucks did luck out a little bit in the second. I know it's not all luck, some of it is talent, but yeah, it felt like they were still frantic. I don't know if they had like picked up on anything because DeSmith wasn't even playing last game, but last game, we got beat by Toronto, which is never good.
No,
For the
never a good
Canucks, that's like
feeling.
2011 all over again. So
All right. Let's talk about some individual performances. But before we do that, we got to remind everyone that at the end of the game here, or at the end of the game, at the end of the stream here, we're going to have a presser for our live audience where they can ask us questions. It can be on topic or off topic. It doesn't really matter, but hold your questions until then. You can ask us about the Oilers situation, firing Jay Woodcroft if you want. I'd love to chat about that for a couple minutes. I'm sure Kaja would love to as well. Or something about this game or something about these teams or anything else. Doesn't matter. But hold your off topic questions until then. And then I've got to tell you about our sponsor, Sign Up Expert. The NHL season is heating up, and there's never been a better time to get in on the action. Whether you're looking to hammer an Austin Matthews anytime goal or ride the puck line with the Vancouver Canucks, which you should do right now considering this hot streak, our partners at Sign Up Expert want to make sure that you're ready to sweat your bets with one of the best. Sign Up Expert is hooking up our listeners with one of the newest sports books available in Canada, Betano. Betano is home to some of the best odds when it comes to betting on the NHL and offers unique markets including virtual soccer and basketball. All you have to do to get started is scan the QR code that's on your screen right now, or if you're listening, you can check the link in the description of this podcast or of this video if you're watching the video, and place that first bet. If you thought the Vancouver Canucks have been the best surprise so far this season, wait until you try Betano. Now that's a PDO run. Don't walk, run, and check out Betano today. Scan that QR code or hit the link in the description to get started and start sweating your bets with the best. Always remember to bet responsibly and within your means. Viewers must be 19 plus to wager on Betano and use Sign Up Expert. All right, Kaja, we got to talk about Quinn Hughes because I don't get to watch the Canucks much because, frankly, they play after my bedtime. And
oh yeah.
I love this player. I've loved him since he was a rookie and I was working at Sportlogic and I got to see all the inputs, the granular data that tell stories that maybe you don't see in some of the outputs. And the thing that always stuck out to me about Hughes specifically was even as a rookie, he had the highest pressure of any player in the entire NHL in terms of how often he had the puck on his stick. Nobody in the NHL had the puck on their stick for a higher percentage of their ice time than Quinn Hughes did as a rookie. And that, I don't believe, has changed so far in his career. He is so important. He is unbelievably involved in every facet of the game. Not always 100% successfully, but as he's continued to get better with age, I look at this guy, and the only difference between him and Cale Makar overall to me is I think Makar's a little bit of a better goal scorer, and Makar has a lot more support around him on a better team. Now that you've got Hronik there on Vancouver, and I called this going in like as soon as they made that trade. Now that they have a second good defenseman, he's going to look a lot better because he's not carrying the load for everyone.
How,
And man, is he exciting to watch!
how dare you disrespect Tyler Myers? How dare you?
I will disrespect him constantly.
How you disrespect OEL's gone.
Ian Cole.
Ugh, no. He is the second worst on my defensive list, to be honest. Yeah. Quinn Hughes, what a man. He's leading the Norris frontrunner. When you said the differences between him and Caulfield, I really thought you were gonna say a Stanley Cup.
Oh,
But
Makar, yeah,
yeah. Caulfield. Why did I say they both start with a C? It's
Kale, Cole, what's the diff?
I know, right? Like one's a food, one's a mineral. Like um yeah, Hughes with an actual good D partner. Not to disrespect Luke Shen, obviously. You know, I'm one of the biggest Shen fans there is. But when it comes to having him with a defensive defensive pairing that's about the same level as him, um, that's a very good thing for Quinn Hughes. Obviously, I do think the captaincy has led to, some more kind of engagement from him as well. But I do think that he's really stepped up this past year, especially this season. He's been one of our better players. He got his fifth goal the other night. Oh, when was it? His fifth goal. I'm trying to remember. I think it was the most recent Edmonton game. He's got his fifth goal in the 12th game of the season. But then like last season he had 5 goals in like 45 games or something like that. So he's really stepped up in his play. He's always so mesmerizing to watch skating. He's just overall a great player, and yeah, he's gonna get at least a Norris nod this year instead of
I
being
agree.
shoved under, Fox, Makar, Hedmans of the world. So
Yeah, we'll
yeah.
we'll have to call out Leafs fan Dom on that one and say his rankings were trash, which I said at the beginning of the year. Having Hughes below Heiskanen to me is ludicrous.
Yeah.
But
I watched Connor Garland walk Heiskanen in real life. Like I was at the Dallas game and I saw that happen. I was like, what defenseman is yikes. Yeah, no. The Canucks Twitter has Dom has made a good enemy in Canucks Twitter because we will never let him forget it.
it's never going away. Dom does this every year. He does it to himself. It's fun. But I think for Canadians fans watching Quinn Hughes tonight, I think you watch how he runs the blue line, and you watch Lane Hudson in college hockey right now for BU, I believe is. I'm gonna mess that up. I always mix up BU and Boston College. I think he's BU.
Are they not the
Um,
same? Like I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. My school's playing exhibition games against both, so
yeah, I hear that. But I think Hudson looks a lot like Hughes in the way that he patrols the blue line and the way he
mhm.
shimmy shakes around forwards and makes them break ankles, like what Hughes did to Suzuki a couple times tonight. If he can even be 80% of what Quinn Hughes is, I think Canadians fans are laughing about that draft pick. Like, that's such a high, lofty bar. But the fact is, he's doing things in college hockey right now that guys like Makar and Hughes weren't quite at that level, So
Mhm.
he's a smaller dude. So is Quinn, but he's even smaller than Quinn Hughes. So he's going to be like Cole Caulfield on the blue line. But I think that's something that Canadians fans have to hang on to right now with the way that the rebuild has gone. He's the home run pick that they have right now. Although Uri Slavkovsky looked like he was approaching his potential a little bit tonight. That was one heck of a game. I believe he ended with 7 shots on goal. I had him down for 6 scoring chances.
He was the third star tonight.
Third star with no points. It tells
Yeah,
a
third
big
star,
story.
no points. Yeah. I mean, Quinn Hughes, yeah, Quinn Hughes was the second star with 1 point on the assist on the first Connor Garland goal. But yeah, just Juraj Slavkovsky, like I said before, he's kind of, not taken a beating essentially, but he got the pressure that was kind of put on. He with being a first overall pick. He gets, injured last season, gets taken out. Yeah, this game is not updated on the NHL website because of course it isn't.
Why would
But
the NHL have a functioning website? What's
I
the point?
know. Um he was a -2, but yeah, still had 6 shots, 16 minutes and 48 seconds time on ice. Yeah, he's gonna turn out the Canadiens have, a good young captain. I actually don't know how old Nick Suzuki is. He just looks like he's 14, so I'm assuming he's young. Um, you guys have a good young core. I think the Canadiens are gonna tear it up in a few years again, but I think Slavkovsky is going to be a key piece to that. Maybe not to the level that first overalls like that guy in Chicago is going to be hyped
Yeah,
up
there
with,
was
but
somebody on Twitter today that was comparing them, and it's like nobody realistically thinks
no,
Slavkovsky is going to be close to
no,
Bedard. And
no.
I think this is something that I've been bringing up on shows constantly this season is like even when the Canadians made the draft pick, they were like, yeah, this is a long-term project. We don't expect him
Mhm.
to be like the best player in his draft year coming out of this draft like in the first couple of years. So I think folks need to calm down that are upset about Slav. And this game, frankly, at the beginning, his like drive was there. He was pushing play the right way, but his execution was way off. So I was really like happy to see as the game went on. It seemed like he was more aggressive and actually getting those pucks on net as opposed to like flubbing it at the end there. Because that's been he had a couple of weeks where he was playing really poorly on a line that was getting destroyed every single night. They shifted him to the top line and immediately he scored a goal, looked more confident, but it was like he was doing a couple of good plays and then when it came to the last play where you either make the pass or take the shot or make the deke, he wasn't completing those plays. Tonight he was completing those plays. It's just that the finishing didn't happen. So it's like he's taking these steps is getting close. So it'll be interesting to see over the next couple of weeks if Slavkovsky actually has a breakout because it looks like he's on the verge of one.
Yeah, I do think he's on the verge of becoming another great young player on the Habs. And like you said, it takes a lot of years for these players to develop. Sometimes, like look at Jack Hughes, he's having now he's injured, but he was having like one of his best starts of the season. He's really taken a step after not so great first couple of years. And I think of uh I don't think anyone thinks Suzuki is better than Pettersson. Sorry.
Yes, I saw somebody was saying Suzuki is not better than Petey. By the way, like
Who is
yeah,
saying that? They are
I
wrong.
I don't know. Suzuki's not better than Elias Pettersson. I
They are
really love Nick
very different
Suzuki.
players.
Elias Pettersson to me is like a top five center in the NHL.
Yeah,
Like he's
better than
incredible.
Connor McDavid. I'm kidding.
Well,
I'm kidding.
especially right now.
Especially right now. Like I think Connor McDavid, he's low in points. Anyway, um, like there's a lot of especially first round draft picks that take a while to develop. Like for example, you said Quinn Hughes is just getting better and better and better. Well, that takes with developing them. That happens with. I mean, I understand Brock Besser and Elias Pettersson dealt with injuries in the earlier years of their career, but they're still bouncing back. Brock Besser he's we've set the 30 goal mark the last couple of years after everything that he's gone on off the ice and as well as on the ice. And then this year he comes out and he just got his 12th on an empty net goal. Like
12 goals already. That's nuts.
12 goals. The second empty net, the Phil DiGiuseppe one, that was Miller's 14th assist of the year. And just when we talk about breakout players, I want to bring up one player that like is a breakout, but in a bad way. Like he's
Oh
breaking
no.
down instead of breaking out. And it is Anthony Beauvillier. I understand we didn't expect a lot when we traded Bo Horvat. Admittedly, the best piece we got in the Bo Horvat trade was the first round pick that we used to get Hronek. Because obviously that's working out for us. He's almost setting a franchise record. But at the same time, the Anthony Beauvillier there was at one point tonight where yes, he was tied up. There's a bunch of Habs around him, but Jake Allen was completely out of the crease. He was out of the net. He was gone off to Quebec City to find the Nordiques again. Like he
He
was
was.
gone. He was gone. And Anthony Beauvillier, he has the puck. He has the stick. He has his entire body except for your foot if it looks like you're kicking it, but sometimes it's okay. Yeah, nothing. He didn't even hit it. Like, I understand you can miss the puck. Look at like the Marchand shootout, the Horvat shootout from just over a year ago against Nashville. I still have flashbacks about that. But when it comes to Anthony Beauvillier, considering that I am 100% sure that he was only in the lineup tonight, and Hoglander was only scratched because of, where they were playing and where
Right.
he's from and everything. But yeah, I really don't see him continuing with the Canucks past the trade deadline. Consider like he's like 5 million against the cap and he's on the fourth line. I We do have better players in our system. We do have the Niels Hoglanders. We have a lot of players down in Abbotsford that are doing great right now. I mean, we scored at least 4 goals back to back on, admittedly it was Jack Campbell, but at the same time, like Abbotsford's doing well right now too. So I do think that there is some steps that need to be made with getting a winger off of this team. I think Beauvillier is up there on the list. I think Garland, he potentially requested a trade. We're not sure about that one. But he definitely upped his trade value tonight, so yay. Because that's another piece of the Benning era gone. But yeah, I really there's a lot of good going on with the Canucks, obviously, like the big names, some of the smaller names like Suter and Di Giuseppe, but at the same time, there's a lot that still needs to be done which is weird to say about a team that's in the top 5 of the league.
But it does make sense considering where they were last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's important not to lose sight of the fact that they're not at like the peak that they can be, right? They've got players who are peak, like Pettersson, Hughes. Those guys are right now amazing. They're superstars in this league, but as a team, they're not at the top level that they could be. Do you think Beauvillier is just a bad fit, or is he to the point now where you think he's a bad player?
Okay. The Islanders told us that he was streaky. That's what we heard. That was the word that was described about him. Um, but when it comes to how he's played for the Canucks so far this year, let me just get his stats. So he had 14 minutes of ice time tonight. He had 2 shots, he had 18 shifts, basically nothing. He had an assist against Toronto. Um, he's playing about 14 minutes a night, not really in too many of the negatives, but at the same time, I don't know if he's a fit on this team, especially as we're going forward with the offensive capabilities that we are. He did have, he started off on a monster streak. I think he had more points at one point on our team than Bo Horvat had on the Islanders after the trade. So that was a big gotcha there. I think the plan was always just to trade him at the deadline. If he put up more points, maybe it was a maybe keep him, but just looking at his numbers over the last few years, yeah, I understand we didn't think that the Islanders were going to re-sign Horvat, so that's why we didn't get a lot from the trade. But at the same time, when you are called streaky on a team like the New York Islanders, which are horrendous offensively, I do think that, or just horrendous in general, I do think that there is some red flags going on. Yeah, like the highest he's hit was 39 points in
Yeah.
2019-2020, and that was in 68 games still. So yeah, I don't know if he's a good fit for this team just in general. I understand, he comes from the Islanders and that should be taken into consideration, but I really don't, yeah, I don't think he's a fit for this team.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of goes into. I guess we'll flip it to the next segment here. We'll kind of freestyle a bit as we've already covered like the top performances of the game. A reminder to everyone to wait for your off-topic questions. Put them in at the end. I see there was a question asking if I have my own channel. This is my channel, I guess. It's not. I don't own it, but I manage all of these Game Over shows. So subscribe to SDPN. Please like the show. There's lots of you here, so enjoy it. Help us grow the brand as well, and grow the show, because it really helps. The more people hear, honestly, the more fun it is, the more conversation in the chat, the more I see what's going on here, and we have fun with you all, the more we get you interacting with the show. It's super fun, so keep going. I guess it's not even a year later, but what do you think of the Horvat trade at this stage?
I want to know what he thinks. I want to know what he thinks. Somebody said in the chat, Beauvillier is a good depth player. I say not for the price tag.
Mm,
Um, that we're paying him. Um, it was kind of the same deal I feel with OEL. If I'm going to be honest, the contract that we were paying him, I understand why they bought him out. He's playing much better in Florida. He's playing actually really well. Like he got a goal tonight for the Panthers in the first minute of the game, and he like completely went past Bedard to score. It was awesome. It was awesome. Um, but yeah, when it comes to just the Bo Horvat trade, Atu Ratu, I think he's doing decently well in Abbotsford. I'm not 100% up to date with that. Um when it comes to yeah, the first round pick was definitely the most notable piece we got. And when we traded it away, first of all, people were so worried. They're so worried because they're just like, why are we trading a first round pick? It's obviously been a horrible year for us, but no one remembers that like the Islanders also made the playoffs last year. Like, yes, they almost got swept, but at the same time, they made the playoffs. Um, People were so worried that we're like, oh, we're trading draft picks again. It's just like the Benning era. And Hronek, he was injured. He came into our team injured. He played 3 games for us and then was injured once again. Um, so people were understandably worried about that. And then you come into the season and yeah, like he's on a 10-game point streak. He's an amazing D partner for Quinn Hughes. I do think that he's probably the best D partner Quinn Hughes has had since Chris Tanev in his like rookie
yeah.
years, which is a big thing to say considering how like revered that pairing is in Vancouver. Like when people heard that Tanev was on the trade block for Calgary, they were like, okay, we have to get him now. It's like, no, let's hold off. Let's hold off. Let's not wreck what's good right now, even though it's not very good. But Tyler Myers, Chris Tanev, 1-for-1. You heard me first. Um, the Horvat trade. I wonder how he's feeling now. That's all I could think of.
Well, hey, he's got his money wrapped up. I mean,
I guess.
I guess really like my question is for Vancouver fans, like with how great JT Miller has been this season, and especially compared to was last season the one where he just was terrible? I feel like it was.
Yeah, the season beforehand, so 21-22, he had the 99 points, and then we signed him at the beginning of the 22-23 season. And then it was just horrific defensively. He ended up being point per game in the end. So yeah, he got 82 points last year. Again, he wasn't the first for points on the team. Elias Pettersson beat him to that, but beat him to 100. But with JT Miller, yeah, last season was the season of the horrific Shifley level back checking, the horrific like him yelling at Colin Delia to get out of the net. The last year was just the Annus Horribilis or Horribilis, whatever the hell the Queen said in 1992 after her son cheated on Princess Diana. Like that's basically what the last season was like for the Canucks. But I think JT Miller, it was just a tough era to be a Canuck. I think in the beginning of that last season, especially with all the drama going on with, oh, they signed Miller instead of Horvat, but now Horvat scoring all the goals and everything. Um, yeah, when it comes to all of that drama, I think he's definitely stepped up a bit this year. He's showing more of the flashes that we saw when he's been an amazing player since he got to Vancouver, but especially in the 21-22 season when the Canucks, when Elias Pettersson was really struggling as well. Just getting the game back as well, getting his game back from where it was. And people say Talkit is the Miller whisperer. I do think that rings kind of true.
Yeah.
The management definitely saw something there with what he did in Pittsburgh, and what he's doing now in Vancouver. I was hesitant about it at first because I liked Bruce Boudreau, but yeah, I think it's been a good fit so far.
Yeah, it seems that way. I've seen some comments saying that Horvat's being paid way too much. Is 500,000 a year between him and Miller? Like where do you sit on that? Do you think one is more overpaid than the other?
I think the Miller deal is honestly looking at some other contracts in this league. I think it's a pretty decent steal, and I think it's going to prove to be that in a few years if the you know if I'm wrong, I'll be wrong. It's fine. When it comes to Horvat, yeah, we couldn't have like he scored a lot of goals at the beginning of the season, yeah, but he eventually dips off. He's about as streaky as Anthony Beauvillier. But when it comes to the Horvat deal, I thought that was way too much. I thought that was a lot. I was a little worried with that one. I am slightly glad we didn't sign him. I understand he was our captain. People have a lot of emotional attachments to that. But at the same time, if you want to keep like the if you want to go into the Canucks Renaissance, we don't want to stay in an era of the dark ages. Like, you have to remember, we got Horvat because we traded Corey Schneider for the 9th overall pick.
Yep.
That's how we got Horvat. Miller can just not age. I understand that it's going to look worse in the later years of his contract, but at the same time, like, he's a good piece of our leadership team. He's a good piece of our. I hate using the core word because I feel like so many players have fit into our core, but then haven't also fit into our core. I do think he's one of those core few players right now for the Canucks, and I don't see that changing. He's been really good so far this year. I've heard the regress word from basically every media outlet everywhere. I don't think that that's going to happen to him for a few years. He's definitely going to be valuable. It could be worse. We could be paying Tyler Seguin 13 mil a year. So we could be paying Darnell Nurse 12 mil. Like, it can always be worse. Pettersson is worth all of it, all the monies, everything.
Almost max contract. I have a guess for Elias Pettersson if they go 8 years, and people probably aren't going to like it. I think it's going to be about 14 million.
Okay.
But if that keeps him a Canuck for the prime of his career.
If it keeps him a Canuck, I'm happy. Whatever the number is, I do not care. You could pay him, you could give him all like the revenue that you get from Rogers Arena for the next like 20 years, and it would be fine. It would be 100% fine with me. As long as we keep, like, I was honestly hesitant of signing Pettersson at the beginning of the season just because when the Canucks went 2-2, I was like, I don't know if this is gonna work out. I don't know if he's gonna want to stay. And then they go on this tear where they didn't lose in regulation until last night. I'm like, yeah, no. I go Sixers if you can save a few mil. As much as I love the number 6, because obviously Brock Besser. When it comes to Elias Pettersson, he should stay as long as possible. I do think you should take into consideration as well that we're going to need to sign a couple more players in a few years, Demko and Besser. If we keep Besser around, fingers crossed, I hope we do. He seems, I want him to be a Canuck for life, but the salary cap is not very willing, not very forgiving. I mean, I do think Pettersson, yeah, I've seen the buildings that Aquilini owns. They just pay him whatever.
Yeah. 100%. And I think the nice thing about Pettersson is you don't have to worry really, I think, with going the full 8 years, because I think he's a player who's going to age very well.
He's already aging well. He looks like a Sedin. Like,
right.
He's not, I meant like physically as well as, playing. He's definitely, if Quinn Hughes hadn't stepped up at the end of the last season as like more of like a speaking leadership wise, I do think he was in front runner for captain until Quinn Hughes started talking at the end of the last season. But I do think that he is going to continue just producing and producing and producing, be one of the top 5 centers in the league. There's going to be conversations about all the biggest trophies you can think of. He's gonna get the Conn Smythe one day. He's gonna get the cup. Like, people have been planning the parade route. People have been planning the order of how the cup is going to be handed out. If it's weird, if it's like Miller to Pettersson, because there was a lot of drama with them last year, but we don't know if that was true. There's a lot that goes on in Vancouver. Right now it's good. Last year it wasn't, and now I'm just coasting through with all the good times. Paying him 14 million puts us in cap hell. Okay, if it's hell, then so be it. It'll be hot at least. It's cold.
Don't need to pack a sweater.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what sorry. That's what I love about the Vancouver fan base, is that whether it's negative or positive, you can never accuse them of being lackadaisical or like not passionate. I feel like they're very, very out there with their opinions, and some of them are pretty terrible. I won't shout anybody out by name, not anybody in this stream chat, of course, but they're not shy. and they have done their best, I think, to hold the team accountable. Clearly, at times, has not necessarily worked because the Aquilinis are the Aquilinis, but hey, they're on the right track right now, and that's great. All right, let's take some questions from the chat because I feel like this is a good time. We've covered this game really well, and I picked Kaya's brain because I get to talk to our hosts on WhatsApp all the time. I get to watch their shows, but I haven't really been able to talk head to head with Kaya since we first interviewed for this job, like maybe in like
Yeah.
a training or something, but one on one, not really. I think we had like a playoff game together last year where we were both on either an Oilers stream or a Stanley Cup final stream. But this
Hmm.
is the first time I think we've been solo. So it's been really nice to pick your brain and see your opinions on certain things, and I'm really enjoying it. So let's go to the questions here. Uh, Fangirl Gaming says, for Andrew, do you think Carey Price is done in the NHL? Yes. That was basically announced the other day. Like it's been known, but David Mulder, who has been the Canadiens doctor for 60 years and just retired, he's a very, very old man, said that basically what happened with Carey Price is they went in for a scope, I believe, to remove some torn meniscus, and they found out that he has no cartilage on his femur where his femur connects
Oh,
to his knee,
yeah.
and he was trying to play through that. And I believe he played through that on that Stanley Cup final run. So that tells you how much pain he was in. And the only time I've ever heard of that in hockey before now was Steve Yzerman in 2002. And in that year, I think he missed some regular season games, but he also played in the Olympics for Canada and was pretty good. He played all the way to the Stanley Cup final and won with the Detroit Red Wings that year, went a point per game, and he could not walk when he was off the ice. He was in crutches or a wheelchair around the arena. So that kind of stuff is so painful. And there was one for you as well, Kaya. Says, do you think, I don't know what this name is, Hirose gets called up
Barossa,
after
yeah.
Hirose gets called up after the Susie injury tonight?
I'm not sure because we do still have some defensemen like in our squad. It's not the taxi squad. That was the season we don't talk about. Well, we don't talk about. You guys talk about it all the time, but I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. Um, I do think that he could get called up. We do have a lot of good defensemen down in Abbotsford. I'm just always worried about the waivers if we call out somebody like Christian Wolanin. Um, yeah, the Canucks. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe Susie just needed to walk it off for half the game. Wishful thinking. I hope he's not injured, but yeah, I don't know. I hope that's something. I hope somebody gets a better opportunity as well.
Yeah, Kay asks, speaking of contracts, what's Gooley's looking like? You know what, Kay, we may have to calm Ghoulie Nation and stop hyping him up because I noticed I posted the side by side comparison from Evolving Hockey, which I hate when people just post charts and being like, haha, that's the end. But I was like kind of joking around that he's been better than Jake Sanderson this year after all the trolling last year that Sens fans did. For some reason, they were obsessed with Sanderson, who's like a third or fourth overall pick or something, being better than Gooley. And I realized maybe I shouldn't do that because Gooley's agent is going to be like, hey, he's better than Jake Sanderson, so maybe he should get more money than Jake Sanderson. And I don't think the Canadiens necessarily want to do that right away. But in that range, I don't think they would necessarily regret it for Caden Gooley. The steps he's taken this year have been incredible. He looks fantastic out there. He looks good enough to be a long-term top pair defenseman in this league. And they already have Reinbacher and Hudson, who you expect to be the top pair a few years from now. So if Gooley can be part of that as like a three-headed monster on the back end, that's scary for other teams. There
If
was oh god, this
if you
one's
can have
violent.
if you can have multiple good defensemen on a team, you should do it no matter the cost.
As a Vancouver
As a
Canucks
Canucks fan, you should absolutely do it. Because if you
fan,
have bad teams and bad ones at a high cost, no.
I think this is going to be a very fast answer for you, but a very violent question. Huberto and Tanev for Pettersson. Who says no?
God, I don't
God.
know. I don't know. Huberto and Tanev for Pettersson. Um, Yeah, just Patrick Alvin's third eye is gonna open up, and that's just gonna be absolutely no. Sidney Crosby's gonna fly in and trade himself instead, because it's got like neither of them played for the Habs, so unless you talk about Brandon Tanev, they're not gonna want him.
Oh
Yeah,
man,
it's a
Daniel
no.
Bastarach says, "Does Talkett's system gaslight a GM into signing Myers in the offseason?" I feel like that's the wrong question. Does it gaslight a GM into trading for Myers at the deadline? That's the big question.
That's a move that Pierre Dorian would do. I'm gonna be honest. Like I watched the Game Over Ottawa Vancouver crossover a few nights ago, and Maud and Parker were talking about how the how they traded for Travis Hamonic and gave them like a third, and then Pierre Dorian came out and said, "Well, I wanted to give them a fourth for Hamonic, but we didn't have a fourth, so I gave him a third." And in like that's a super stupid. No, how did he last as long as he did? At the same time, there are still GMs like him that I think we can dupe into getting Myers and taking that. If we have to retain anything, so be it. Most of it was signing bonus anyway.
No, yeah, yeah. It's yeah.
He's
Oh
not
my god,
resigning. He's not
Pierre
resigning.
Pierre
Please.
Dorian. You need guys around that so that the good teams can be good. GMs like that.
Yeah.
There's a question here from Jaskaran Kumo or Yaskaran. I don't know which pronunciation you go with.
What about Jasker?
Andrew, who would you rematch, Leafs or Bruins? If you're talking about if you want to win a playoff series, the Leafs.
Hey,
Easy.
but they won one. They won one last year.
Yeah, I
They
my
won a
theory on
single
that
playoff round.
is that Tampa was actually like really bad all season last year, and they were actually really bad in the playoffs too, and the Leafs
Huh.
just won because Tampa was really bad.
Well, yeah, because Vasilevsky needed back surgery.
Exactly. So
Like
not
you got
repeatable.
they lucked out. They lucked out. But hey, they got to win a single second round game in 18 years.
There you go. It's
Yeah.
something. I saw someone point out on Twitter the other day that the Canadians have as many playoff series wins against the Leafs as the Leafs do playoff series wins since 2004.
That's bad.
Yeah, it's bad because
That's
the Canadians
bad.
are not a good team. Not yet, anyway. There's another question here. I think it was for both of us. Kaja from Duck says, "Who do you hate more, the Bruins or the Leafs?" For me, easy Bruins. I don't hate the Leafs. They're fun to make fun of because their fan base
Hmm.
is huge, and most of them I actually genuinely like because they get the joke. Some people take it too serious, but Bruins, way more hate for the Bruins.
Oh, I hate the Bruins. I will never be over 2011. Like, I've said this for years. I will say this for the rest of my life. Just because you have cute goalie hugs does not mean I will forgive you. I had the Bruins roster page on my Windows bookmarks at 8 years old, saved as I hate them after 2011. So yeah, Bruins, nada. Leafs, I semi like. So yeah.
Yeah, I know. Justin Fisher, the social media coordinator for SDPN, used to have his Apple Watch had crying Brad Marchand after they lost to the Blues in the finals, and I wanted to do that. I never got around to it, but I don't want to look at Brad Marchand's face all the time. But at the same
You
time, every
should
time I check the
sit.
time, seeing Brad Marchand crying,
That's
it's pretty
great.
appealing. It's pretty appealing.
I just have Quinn Hughes on my lock screen right now, so maybe I should find that picture and put it up.
Yeah, I used to have hockey stuff on my lock screen. Now I'm that old guy who has his family on there.
Yeah. I
It's
uh I have too many hockey. It's either hockey or Star Wars ones. Anyway, back to the
hey,
chat.
Star Wars is good stuff too.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Sometimes, not
I feel like
recently.
they're in a good place.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the
Movies, not so
movies.
much.
Oh, we don't have time to get into that tonight. We would need a
Well,
game over The Last Jedi for that.
oh god, that mean we'd have to watch it again though.
Oh, I I haven't rewatched The Rise of Skywalker.
Oh, I can't do it. I can't
No.
do it. I'd have to get like super drunk or something
Yeah.
to be able to watch that. However, like, hey, I'm rewatching Rebels with my kids right now, and they're so into it, which is fantastic. You know, they love all the characters. Rewatching it for the second time, I feel like this series is so underrated.
Mhm.
It gets really written off as being for kids, and it's styled for kids, but I feel like the content is very adult.
Yes, that's what I feel like Clone Wars got stuck in too, because at the beginning there was a lot of like kids, I don't want to say kids kind of themed episodes, but there were a lot of like silly adventures with C3PO and R2D2. And I don't
Hmm.
like C3PO, so those episodes were
Me
hell for
either.
me. He's so annoying. I think it's because he's British. But when it comes to like the rest of the season, when you get into the later seasons and you get into the stuff on Mandalore, you get into
So
lead
good.
up to Order 66, it's so dramatic and so dark. Like the Fives arc, I literally had to spend I when I watched it like the first time through, I stopped it for a month. I couldn't watch again because it was just so like gut wrenching.
Yeah, like where we are right now with the kids, we got up to I don't know if you know the episode title off by heart, but the episode in the fourth season, Jedi Knight, which
Mm.
is where I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but hey, it's been out for a long time now. It's the one where Kanan
Yeah.
sacrifices himself,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
both of my kids love Kanan so much, and every time we play like lightsabers, they make me be Kanan. And so we're sitting on the start of that
Oh.
episode, and I'm like, I'm gonna delay this for a bit because I know they're gonna cry so hard. But hey, good storytelling is good storytelling.
Yeah.
All right, let's do one
Hockey.
last question here, one last hockey question, and then we'll close shop here if there is one. Andrew Geisberg says best throwback in the NHL, is it the Canucks or the Ducks? I like the Ducks jersey. But I love the skate jersey. I know it's ugly, but it's good ugly.
I was gonna say I while the skate jersey, admittedly, it's pretty nice. At the same time, I just really I love the Mighty Ducks aesthetic from like the earlier days, like the purple and the turquoise and all that
There
kind of stuff.
there needs to be more purple in the league.
Yes, there needs to be more than just like the traditional colors that they have for every single team. Stop making your teams red and blue all the time. It
Yep.
doesn't work. Seattle, it was so refreshing to see a team have teal for once. Like that, like I don't know why, but having different shades of like a similar color, just chef's kiss, is a great idea. Not a
E-
Kraken fan, but I love the execution there.
Even when the Canucks started bringing the green back in, like that was refreshing. Like bringing these
Yeah,
pops of colors, it changes things. Like, please, LA Kings, admit to yourselves that you should be purple and gold. You need to be
here's my
purple and
dog.
gold. Their reverse retro that they did a couple years ago, which was like the 90s like Chevy symbol with the purple and
Mm-hmm.
gold, it's the best jersey they've ever had by far. In my opinion, it's like a top 10 jersey of all time. I love that jersey. I can't believe they didn't make it their full-time one.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of people talking about the black and red and how the skate's going to be the next new one, and I don't like the new redesign of the skate that they had last year. They had the whole marketing campaign, the freeze skate, everything. They even got Carolina in on it in one game. I don't like that design. I have the design from the year earlier. I think it's much better because it completely erased like part of the shading in the logo. I don't think black and red is black, yellow, and red. While people love the skate jersey and nostalgia and everything, I think people just really like Trevor Linden. I mean, not so much right now, but like they really liked that.
McGillney for me. McGillney for me.
Yes, or like Kirk McLean, who's like always everywhere for the Canucks. I do think that people have that nostalgia attached to it. Like my dad still has his skate jersey, the white skate jersey from the 90s that he wore when he met Pavel Bure. Like there's a lot of nostalgia for that, but at the same time, why does it fit the city of Vancouver? How does it fit the city of Vancouver? You have to have some sort of like relevance to the area you're in. I do think the blue, green, and white
Makes
fits
sense.
better. It's more of a coastal kind of theme, is what I feel like. When it
Have they
comes to this.
tried remixing the skate jersey into the blue, green, and white?
I've seen some
I wonder if that would work.
concepts. I've seen some concepts. A lot of the concepts, I will admit, aren't very good.
Oh,
But at the same time, I also like jerseys that a lot of people don't like. I'm wearing the Sprite jersey right now. Like, okay, you can't see the green. It's there, I swear. But I'm wearing the Sprite jersey right now. Like, a lot of people didn't like this jersey. I really like it. I like the original too. I liked when we had the burgundy, even though everyone complains about that era. I understand. I still like it. When it comes to the Vancouver Canucks, I don't think we should also leave from the Orca as well. people say, oh, it represents the old management team. Well, I do think it's a better representation of, Canucks, the West Coast and everything. There's better. I do think we could do like a redesign maybe to have maybe some like more indigenous like kind of
Yeah,
attributes added to the logo. But I think the skate jersey, it's just nostalgia at this point.
100%. I mean, that's why I love it. To me, like the skate jersey is Bure and McGillney, and that's like the Canucks team that I watched growing up. That was like a legit crazy fun team to watch. So that's 100% why I love it, and I'll fully admit that. It's the same thing. Like I don't know if it's the same thing with the Mighty Ducks. Like there's some nostalgia in there for sure, but I think part of that is their current color scheme in jerseys
Their color
so
scheme's ugly.
objectively terrible.
It's ugly. Like
Who chose that greenish yellow snot
I
color?
I was barely like conscious when they started like rolling out this new stuff, and it's just no, it's go back to the Mighty Ducks. Disney had it right for once, okay? They did something that didn't ruin a franchise for once. Um I do think that they should bring that back. Bring back the purple. Stop being cowards. Anyway.
Agreed. That's, I mean, the end of the show. It's exactly what we want. Bring back the purple. We got to get some more color in the NHL. We got to do it. We can talk about jerseys forever, but you know what? The nice thing is, no matter how ugly the jersey that you buy right now is, put it in the wash a couple of times and it falls apart because it's Fanatics. So you can buy the ugliest jersey you want, and you don't have to worry about it too much. All right, Kaja, thanks so much for joining me here tonight. Obviously, you can join Kaja and her amazing coworkers on Game Over Vancouver. When's your next game, Kaja? Do you know?
My next game or just Canucks game in general?
The next Canucks game.
On Wednesday against the Islanders. I think
There you
Parker
go.
has it, but I'm not sure.
Tune in for that one. We're on next, I believe, on Tuesday, and it'll be Mark hosting with. It's another crossover with Peter Klein from Game Over Calgary and a very special guest. I don't know if I'm supposed to announce this, but I'm going to anyway. On Game Over Calgary and Game Over Montreal on Tuesday, they'll be joined by Kat Toffoli.
Yay!
So that will be super fun for everyone. I think Kat is a really wonderful person who cares a lot, and her husband Tyler happens to be a fantastic hockey player who's played great hockey for both temes. So that's going to be a really fun episode.
And us.
And us. Yes, and we're good too.
It's for like 20 minutes.
100%. All right. Thanks, Kaja. Thanks everyone for joining us here today, and we'll see you next time.